Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the emotional safety of everyone listening. Radiant Resilience often explores real stories of struggle, healing, and the human experience. Because of that, episodes may include sensitive or triggering topics. Specific topics for each episode are listed in the episode description, so please check there to determine if this conversation feels right for you today. This podcast is meant to offer connection, understanding, and shared humanity, but it is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing help, please reach out to qualified professionals or trusted resources in your life. Your mental and emotional well-being matters deeply here. Thank you for your courage, your openness, and for joining me in this space of compassion and resilience. Hello, friends, and welcome back. This is going to be a Radiant Reflections episode, and it has been a minute since I did a solo episode, and there's a reason for that. There's probably lots of reasons for that, but I realized it had been a really long time. I think the last solo-ish episode that I did was with my sister at the beginning of the year in January. If you want to go back and listen, it is it's a bonus episode reflecting on 2024, loss, growth, and fresh starts with Tegan. So that was with my sister. She was kind enough to go over her 2024 and what she's looking forward to in 2025. And we both went over that stuff. I've had a lot happening personally that has kept me from doing a solo episode. And then I've also just been doing a whole bunch of interview episodes as well. Just life got away from me, and here we are. So I apologize to all my listeners for not having done a solo episode in a minute, but thank you for being patient and thank you for continuing to listen. I was feeling inspired to do a solo episode because Mother's Day is coming up this weekend, and Mother's Day is a very difficult day for me. So that is what triggered this episode, prompted this episode. And also, like I said, it had been a while. Here we are. So I'm back for a solo. And I hope you all have had a lovely beginning of the year. I unfortunately know of so many people that have had a difficult beginning of 2025. And so I'm sending love to all of you out there that have been struggling at the beginning of this year. As far as me, my husband and I just recently went to San Diego for a weekend with our dear friends from Canada, and that was really lovely. I love the beach. Anybody who knows me, I adore the beach, so it was a wonderful vacation. We went to Nicaragua in January, and I don't think I talked about that because I think that last episode was before that. But it was amazing. It was absolutely wonderful. The beaches are incredible. The people were really nice. The food was really good. We did get into a little bit of a scooter accident, which apparently is common on the island of Ometepe. So we both were a little beat up, had some road rash from that, which really sucked because there was a whole bunch of water sports we wanted to do that we were not able to do for a little bit. We were going to go scuba diving at the end of the trip, and we both wanted to heal up really good before we did that. And Colin was still not quite fully healed up, but we wanted to go scuba diving, so we made it happen. So that was an interesting part of the trip. And other than that, I guess the biggest change that I have had recently is I left my salon that I had been at for about 10 and a half years, and it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life. It was terrifying and just really emotional and very difficult, and I dealt with a whole bunch of emotions in regards to that. So that was huge. That was a big changing moment, and I'll talk a little bit more here later about why. Let's see, books right now. So I went down the complete rabbit hole of the romantasy. So I did the ACOTAR books. I did Throne of Glass. Then I did Fourth Wing. Then I did Crescent City. And then I did Quicksilver. And while I loved all of those books, Fourth Wing being my favorite, I think, and ACOTAR, which is sometimes an unpopular opinion, I needed a break from those, and I am currently reading Red Rising, which is more of a sci-fi, but it's not alien sci-fi. It's just like politics in space, but it's in the future, and everybody lives in different planets, and then it's Hunger Games-y, and yeah, so that's where I'm at for books. I haven't read a self-help book in a minute, but I have the new Glennon Doyle, Abby Wambach, and Amanda Doyle book coming in the mail this week. So shout out to them for We Can Do Hard Things. I'm very excited for that book, and I'm also going to their tour that they're doing. They're coming to Denver here soon. That's a quickie little update of what's going on with me in my life. Have a lot more trips planned, a lot of fun weekend trips. I'm going to visit a friend in Idaho. I'm going to Vegas with my Vegas buddy, and then Colin and I are going to go to Kyrgyzstan is going to be our big trip in September. So I'll probably do an episode talking about that, kind of like I did with Pakistan, because I think it's a really interesting country. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot. That's our big September trip, and then Seattle and Disney at the end of the year. So that's my little quickie life update. So in this episode, I want to talk about a few different things. A little bit of grief, a little bit of hope, some energetic shifts, authentic truth, things like that. That's where we're going to go today. So hope you're feeling it. So I want to start off because Mother's Day is this weekend here in the US. I know it varies from country to country, and it's a tough one for those of us going through infertility. It's really tough. And it's even more tough because I am one of the few that does not have kids and did not have success. Childless, not by choice. And I keep thinking that at some point it's going to get easier. And I think it has a little bit. I have done so much healing in the last year and a half since my last embryo transfer. I'm very proud of where I've gotten to today, but I still have those setback moments. It brings up, Mother's Day is just tough. Like even right now, it's a week before, and when I'm recording this episode, and my Instagram is full of quote cards that are like, send this to the mom that deserves to know that they're doing great, and blah, blah. And while I don't want to discount motherhood by any means, because I fully acknowledge that it is a tough job in this world to be a mom and be a parent and raise children into being good contributing members to society. Like, I do not want to take away from that whatsoever. But for those of us who don't have that role and didn't get to choose that, it's really hard to see. And it is blowing up my Instagram for some reason right now. I don't know why, but I do want to celebrate. It's so many conflicting feelings, right? I want to celebrate my mom, for starters. My mom is wonderful and she deserves to be celebrated, and her birthday happens to fall on Mother's Day this year too. So it's a double whammy. I want to celebrate her. I want to celebrate my mother-in-law. I want to celebrate my sister, who is an incredible mom. And I want to celebrate all of my friends out there that are amazing mothers and do that hard work in addition to working full-time jobs and being spouses and keeping the house clean and cooking and all of the things, and then being good friends on top of it, and daughters and aunts and like all the things. I want to celebrate all of you. You all deserve it, 100%. So it's those feelings mixed with my own feelings of how I feel about Mother's Day and how difficult it really is. It just brings back all the ick, all the hurt, all of it, and reminds me that I'm not a mother and that I didn't get to choose that. One of my very dear friends, Melanie McKenzie, and she was on episode 28. So if you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen to that. And one of her quotes from that is, I've never worked so hard at anything and not been successful. And it resonates with me so much, and it's constantly going through my head because it's so true. I worked my freaking ass off at trying to become a mom. I did everything in my capacity that I could do. I spent tons of money. I did all the things. I'm not going to go over it all again because you guys all know what I've been through. And so it's a reminder, basically. And I'll share a story, and I may have shared this before, but there was a Mother's Day years ago that I went to a brunch with my family, like we always did. It was me and my husband, my sisters, my niece and my nephew, my mom, my stepdad, and my grandparents. And we walked into this restaurant on Mother's Day, and I was in the midst of fertility treatments. And also not quite to the point where I could say, I don't want to celebrate Mother's Day on Mother's Day. I have now gotten to that point. But back then, I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do, regardless of how I felt about it. And I went, and we walk in this restaurant, and the hostess hands carnation flowers to every mom in our group. So, my grandma, my mom, and my beautiful sister, who are all wonderful mothers and again, deserve to be celebrated. Actually, I don't know if my little sister was there now that I think about it. Because I felt like I was the only one at the table, only woman at the table, that because I didn't have kids, I didn't deserve that flower on that day. That's how it felt. I know that's not the intent of the sentiment, but that was one of the hardest Mother's Day I had ever been to, and I cried at the table. Openly cried at the table. Because it was hurtful, because I was doing IVF and I was doing everything and I wanted it so bad. And I just got looked over because I didn't have a baby currently in my arms, in my belly, in my life. It's really hard. And so shortly after that, I started telling family that I would rather not celebrate Mother's Day on Mother's Day if possible, because you go to the restaurants, you go out, you go anywhere, and it's just like in your face, blaringly, Mother's Day specials, Mother's Day this, Mother's Day that. I will say there are a lot of incredible companies right now who are sending out emails that are like, would you like to opt out of Mother's Day emails? Yes, please. Thank you. Because people who have been through infertility are not the only ones that are struggling with Mother's Day. I have several friends who have lost their mothers, and that makes it really fucking hard too, because they're reminded of someone they loved that's no longer here. And it's so hard. Like I said, it's so many conflicting feelings of wanting to celebrate the mothers in your life while also struggling with your own grief and emotions. And for those of us going through infertility, the grief never fully leaves, is what I understand. I actually just had a dear friend tell me the other day that her 80-year-old grandma or aunt, I'm so sorry, friend, if I'm forgetting exactly who it was her great aunt's 80th birthday. She's childless and requested that we not celebrate her on Mother's Day weekend because it still feels very hard for her. And I was like, oh no, 80 years old and I'm still going to feel that way. But it's okay. I think grief in general never leaves us. No matter who or what you're grieving, there's always that twang that's there, that in your heart that gets triggered every once in a while. And so I don't think it ever fully leaves. Like I said, I'm in a much better place emotionally with all this stuff than I was 2 years ago. So I think Mother's Day will be very different. But in the past, I have shut my phone off, shut all my technology off, and just did stuff around the house. And it was one of the best days that I ever had. My husband was working and I was home alone, and I just disconnected, and I baked, and I did all the things. I read books, I went for walks, I did all the things, and I got done and I was like, that was a great day. So if you are struggling, give yourself permission to shut out the world. It's okay. You can. And I'm giving you that permission because we need that sometimes. We need somebody to just tell us it's going to be okay, to do that and to protect ourselves and our heart and soul. I've had to make many decisions like that over the years. I've had a few moments this year that have caught me off guard emotionally. Just random things, not necessarily even pregnancy announcements or things like that. I've been caught off guard before by like a first dance at a wedding with a mom and a son or a father and a daughter, and it's not something that I may never be able to do, and things like that. It's just wild what ends up being your triggers sometimes. But for those who are listening who are struggling with infertility this Mother's Day, I want you to know that your pain is valid, your feelings are valid, no matter how long it's been. It's okay for it to still hurt and for you to protect your peace, for sure. I had something happen recently. It was like 3 random triggers, and I'm going to talk about it because it wasn't your standard triggers. So it was interesting because the amazing photographer that I use for my brand photos for my business, I saw one of her posts pop up on Instagram, and it was of the fertility doctor that did my most recent embryo transfers. She had done this woman's brand photos, and they were beautiful because my photographer, she's amazing and so talented. And I was like, oh, but like seeing that woman and her name, the doctor and all that stuff, I was like, oh, crap. So it like stirred up some feelings, brought back some like memories from when I was going through my treatments. And that was really a trigger that I wasn't expecting and random that you wouldn't think of normally. Then I found out, so one of these triggers was also in a pregnancy announcement of someone that I did not know was pregnant. And because let me just be real here, and I've said this before, don't hide those things from me because they come out eventually. And everybody thinks that if they just don't talk about it in front of me or around me or to me or whatever, that I'm never going to find out. But like people having a baby, you think I'm never going to notice, or it's never going to come out in some type of a conversation. So that was extremely triggering. Oh, and then I saw a post about miscarriages that someone I knew was going through on social media, and that was a really tough one too. Yeah, so just like random things that aren't, like I said, necessarily your typical triggers of pregnancy announcements. Obviously one of those was, but also I mentioned in the Reflecting on 2024 episode that I was thinking of looking into a reproductive immunologist. So update on that. I did a consultation with a reproductive immunologist in February. So he looked at all of my records and said, I can't see anything blaringly wrong in any of these, but it's because they weren't testing for the right things. So I'm going to send you a bunch of blood work that I want you to get done, and then we'll talk again in a few months when you get that done. I'm like, okay. It was the most expensive 15-minute conversation I've ever had in my life. I don't know why they couldn't just go over my records and be like, okay, now you need to go do this blood work. So I put it off and I put it off because there were so many emotions with it. I was on the fence on if I even wanted to go this route, but there's still a very small part of me that does not want to give up on this journey just yet. But I don't want to keep going back to IVF and doing the same freaking thing that I've done over and over and hoping for a different outcome. So it was recommended to me to see this reproductive immunologist. So finally one day I was like, all right, you know what? So there was four genetic blood tests that I had to do that was going to be through a specialist lab. Then there was a giant list of stuff that he wanted me to do through Quest. And then there were about 3 or 4 uterine scans that he wanted me to do. So like visual stuff, right? So one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go do the Quest stuff and get that out of the way because like how bad could that be? It's a Quest lab. It can't be that expensive. It can't be that invasive. Let's just do that. Because the specialty blood tests that were about those four genetic tests, they were about $150 a piece, and insurance doesn't cover any of those. I was like, all right, I'll go do the Quest stuff. So I had a whole bunch of appointment issues at Quest. But I went in for the actual blood draw, and the girl looks at me and she goes, okay, so there's an out-of-pocket cost today after your insurance, and it's $1,500. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I was not prepared to pay $1,500. I thought, well, they'll bill my insurance and I'll get a bill later, which not that I want a surprise bill of $1,500, but I was like, what? Turns out this blood work was $10,000 worth of blood work pre-insurance. With my insurance, $1,500. So I left because I was like, I don't want to pay $1,500 for this today. That is not what I was trying to do. And they wanted it right now before they even did my blood draw. This was before they even poked me. And so the girl was really nice. We sat and chatted for a bit. And then she's like, why don't you go ask the doctor what of these are most important? And we can do some of them and we can work our way through them, whatever. And I was like, okay, sure. But at the end of the day, I know that doctor wants all that blood work at some point, whether I do it bits at a time or I do it all in one go. So I don't think I'm going to get out of any of that. So then I just really started to do some soul searching on whether or not this is a route I want to go. And I think I've decided I don't want to go that route. Because then to go over all of this blood work and all these tests is going to cost me another like $500. And then he's going to come up with some type of treatment for whatever we find out in the blood work. And I have to do that treatment for however long, and I have to pay for that. And then we have to do the tests all over again. And if everything's cleared up, then I can go try to get pregnant again, either with IVF or naturally. Like, I really had to do some soul searching on whether or not this is something I wanted to do. And as of right now, I'm still up in the air, but I'm leaning towards no, because the emotional toll that this has all taken on me has been debilitating in the past. And I have come so far in my healing that I do not want to do it again and start over. So it's something I seriously have to think about. But right now, I'm not pursuing any of it. And it was just a really eye-opening experience. However, those triggers I spoke about before that story, sorry, I got a little bit off track. After the reproductive immunologist stuff made me go down a rabbit hole one day of, you know what? Maybe I'll go do this in another country again. So what did I do? I sent an email to an IVF clinic in the Czech Republic, which is one of the leading ones in the entire world. And of course they got back to me and they're like, here, fill out our form and we'll talk to you and do more and blah, 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 blah. Again, do I want to go this route again? I genuinely don't know.
Hi, friend, and welcome to this episode of Radiant Resilience. We are always looking for new guests on the podcast. I want to highlight you if you have a story of resilience that inspires others. Everyone has a story, and I believe that sharing yours can help others feel less alone. Are you ready to share your journey and inspire others? I want to hear from you. Every story has the power to impact lives and foster a supportive community. If you have a tale of overcoming adversity, personal growth, or a unique perspective on life's challenges, I would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. To become a guest, please email us directly at radiantresiliencepodcast@gmail.com or click the link in the show notes to become a guest. Join us in spreading hope, strength, and inspiration one story at a time. Be brave and share your story so others feel less alone. I hope to see you soon.
It's exhausting. It's a constant battle inside my head. And every month that I'm coming up on my period, I'm thinking, maybe this is the month. Maybe this is the month. Maybe this is the month. Maybe this is the miracle month. And it never is. Hasn't been for almost a decade. I've been just trying to live life happily. I have a wonderful life, wonderful husband, and being grateful for all the things that I do have. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I still fall into that deep, dark hole. Not as often as I used to, which is good. But good Lord, it's tough. Just tough. That's where I'm at with my infertility right now. I want to go back and talk about the big life change that I had. Leaving my salon, like I said, was the most difficult and emotional thing I have had to face in a while. Tore me apart. Even though I knew deep down in my soul it was the right thing to do, I wanted to be closer to home. I wanted to have a little bit more autonomy and do my own thing. I felt like I'd hit the ceiling where I was. And I was also not as inspired as I used to be. And I was really struggling with that on a day-to-day basis in the salon. And so I did it. I did one of the hardest fucking things I've ever had to do. Truly, anybody that walked that journey with me, I'm so fucking grateful for you. Truly. I needed all the support I could get. It was huge. So I have been at my new place, which is a suite completely by myself. It's just me and my client in there by ourselves. It's a very private experience. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. We can have whatever experience my client wants to have. And it's been amazing. And in the very beginning, it was terrifying because I moved cities and I lost about 50% of my clientele in doing so. And one of the things I want to talk about is the feelings of rejection that I had to navigate over and over and over of the clients telling me that they were not going to follow me. And these were people that had been amazing souls in my chair for the last 10, 11 years and who I adored. But I get it. I didn't want to make the drive anymore, and I didn't blame them for wanting to make the drive to my new place. And while I knew it wasn't personal, it was really hard after I heard it 45 times to not take it personally at some point. And I knew that if I stayed at the salon that I was at, that they all would have stayed with me and it never would have been a thing, and that's okay. It wasn't personal. It absolutely wasn't. But I gotta tell you, hearing that rejection over and over was so emotionally difficult. So I had to navigate that, which I managed to, mostly, by just trying to focus on the fact that it was not personal and these people love me and would have stayed with me if I stayed up there and all the things. So I just kept reminding myself of the positives. But that was really tough. And then I moved down closer to home and was nowhere near as busy as I used to be because I lost half my clientele. And that was part of what kept me from making this move for so long to begin with. That was hard and scary because I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life, truly. Because I was like, oh gosh, money is now an issue. And my self-worth is an issue. And oh my God, nobody's ever going to want to come get their hair done by me. And I just spiraled, which is so silly, but it was part of the process. So I've been down here now 2 months. 3 months. 3 months. I did all of February, all of March, and all of April down here. And I have to tell you, hindsight is always 2020. And I have talked about that a million times on this podcast, and it irritates the hell out of me that it's 2020. Why can't we have some 2020 foresight? Like, where is my crystal ball? So I am seeing a dramatic, energetic shift in my business because I am able to put my heart and soul into this the way that I want to. And I'm just doing what I love, and it's showing. Just the other day, I had one of the most successful days I've ever had in my entire career. I am getting clients that I want to work with that are doing services that I want to do. And it's just incredible. I can't fully explain the energetic shift. It's just happening. And I know it's happening. And I know it's happening for the best. And it's really cool. I just did an interview with an amazing woman that you guys will get down the road here, Laura Bratton, and we were talking about how you can get stuck in survival mode and things like that and not even realize it. And I have experienced that multiple times in my life of being stuck in that survival mode and then I think I'm coping really well. And then I look back on it after the fact and I'm like, oh, I was avoiding. I was not coping whatsoever. I was avoiding and I was just surviving. But you don't ever know it until after the fact. And it is so frustrating. So it's cool because I feel like I'm able to recognize this energy shift a little bit better earlier to appreciate it while it's happening. Don't be afraid to make the big jump. Don't be afraid to make the big move. Don't be afraid to fail, which I still am afraid to fail, but we never know unless we try. We have to try. It can be terrifying. Yeah. I just love to come on here and be honest and real and vulnerable with you guys because I ask people to do it with me all the time. And so it is time for me to do it. Another little thing I want to talk about too is in regards to the hindsight being 2020, I do feel like I have been distracted at the beginning of this year with moving the salon and having that huge shift in my life that I am honestly terrified right now to face my infertility and what that looks like and what my future looks like. I've healed a ton. I'm still not ready to face a childless life fully. I've accepted it a lot more. But is that what I'm okay with? Is that what I want? Am I going to be resentful of that down the road? Resentful of the fact that I didn't do and explore every single teeny tiny avenue? Am I going to resent the fact that I chose my own personal peace over being a mom? Is that selfish? Maybe. But after being beat down for 10 years by this fucking disease, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think anybody in my shoes would probably feel similarly. But it's hard because I constantly question if I did enough. And I don't know. And I don't like to think about it. And I avoid it in my brain a lot. Even though I'm reminded every month how big of a failure I am with that. It's really hard. It's the biggest failure of my life. And yay, I get to be reminded of that this weekend. So, part of this podcast is I want to share the real hard shit. Because we all have real hard shit. All of us, everyone. I don't care who you are. Like, everybody has it. Everybody has had a struggle, and there are a million different ways to struggle because this life is not easy. And I just want those listening to know you're not alone in anything you're going through. You are not the only one in this world struggling, despite what social media tells us and things like that. So it is important to me to be honest and real and vulnerable about my life and my struggles. And so I just really wanted to come on and finally do that. But full transparency, I've not been on here to talk about this stuff because I sit down and I go, all right, I want to do a solo episode. What do I want to talk about? I don't know, because I don't want to go there right now, is I think the reality. And as I'm talking through this now with you, I'm realizing a lot of things that are still not healed. And we're a constant work in progress for healing. There's never going to be a healed human being ever. We're always learning. We're always exploring. We're always healing from something. And that's okay because it makes us into better people. So that's my real life true story. Apparently, I need to seek out some more therapy because I've been distracting the last 5 months and not facing. But I think that's okay sometimes. Sometimes that's what we have to do to get through life and to get through the hard things. And then when we're ready, we'll face it. Some never face it, which is probably not a good thing. But thank you for letting me be vulnerable and for listening to me and for constantly supporting my podcast. I am just forever amazed at who all is listening, and I just appreciate you so much. I wanted to close out on some ideas of what not to say to someone who's struggling on Mother's Day with infertility specifically. I can't speak to those who have lost their moms because I have not lost my mom yet. I am grateful for that. But for those that are struggling with that out there, whether you're estranged from your mom or your mom has passed away or just is not in your life anymore, I see you and I love you and I'm sending you so much love. For those struggling with infertility this Mother's Day, I really see you. I'm sending you so much love. I am here for you. You are not alone. You are seen. And it's okay. It's okay to grieve it and be upset and sad and all the things. Do not say at least statements. At least you never had a miscarriage. At least you never went through cancer. At least blah, 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 whatever it is. Never, ever, in any of these situations, an at least statement. Never. You'll be a mom someday. Or one thing I've heard is there are several different ways to be a mom, or lots of different ways to be a mom. Sure, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way I want to be a mom. Don't say that, please, to people. It gives toxic hope, and like people could say that to me, and here I am, okay? So please don't say that. Have you tried and then gave advice? Don't give advice. Don't give advice in any situation. If there's anything I've learned through this podcast and talking to people, don't ever try to solve people's problems. And I know I'm guilty of it sometimes too, for sure. But don't try to solve other people's problems. Just be there, love them, care for them. Don't offer suggestions if you don't know. Or ask them, hey, I have a suggestion. Are you willing to hear it? If not, no big deal. I don't get this one as much anymore because I've literally tried everything. But I do, that's not true. I do get, have you tried donors? Have you tried surrogacy? Have you tried adoption? No, because those are personal choices. Very personal and do not come any easier. Just saying. Yeah. Just some ideas of things not to say this Mother's Day. Those are just a few. I'm sure that my listeners that are infertile would come up with a million more because I could do a whole podcast episode on what not to say to people, especially after doing this podcast, just what not to say. I realize that most people in those situations are trying to be helpful. They're not trying to be detrimental, but it's just best to tell people you love them and you're there for them and you want to help with whatever they need. And then if you're a doer, help them out in other ways, okay? Cook them some meals or go to their house and hang with them for a day or whatever that may be. Whatever your love language is, do that. Yeah. I just want to send everyone out there this Mother's Day so much love. Anyone who's struggling in any situation with it. Anyone struggling in anything, any loss, any struggle. I'm sending you love. I want to remind you that it's okay to honor your truth, even if it's heavy. If you're navigating grief or change, you're not alone, and you're allowed to feel both loss and joy at the same time. So, thank you so much for listening to this very vulnerable, very honest conversation. Thank you for making it through. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for constantly listening to the podcast. If you feel compelled to come and chat with me and share your story on the podcast, I would love to have you. Any type of guest, any story. I want to keep sharing it and I want to keep putting it out in the world. And also, I think it can be very therapeutic to share your story sometimes when you're in the right place to do it and when you're ready to do it. So I love you all so much. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all in the next episode.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the stories shared, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews make a huge difference. They help us reach more listeners and continue bringing you engaging, insightful content. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until next time, keep listening, growing, and sharing.